Yo, welcome to another episode of our entrepreneurial family. Man, we are so excited to interview our guest today. Man, one of the reasons why we chose to do this series is because there's so many different combinations of entrepreneurial families, whether that is the wife who is the face of the brand and the husband, might not even be in entrepreneurship, might just like work a normal job, or vice versa, or the whole family has multiple generations of family businesses and they run a brick and mortar, or maybe like our family where you got a family of entrepreneur like-minded kids, but one of them maybe not so much. And it's just like, man, there's so many different mixes and matches and makeups, and entrepreneurship is already challenging in itself. I mean, I can't remember what the statistics was of the number of small businesses that fail within the first 5 years. I think it was close to 50% or more, if I'm not mistaken. And there's such a need for mentorship, for guidance, for people to actually learn from others who have, you know, failed and overcome the mistake, or what my mentor used to say, they paid the dummy tax, and now they can help you to avoid those same mistakes. And so one of the things I like about this couple here is that I met April first at our mutual friend Amber's Books and Business event, heard her story there, and really connected in a way. And it's kind of like, okay, she's definitely one of my people. Like, she's cool. And it's just kind of like, I just kind of like followed her. It wasn't like I don't think we followed up since the event, but I just kind of been following her journey. And then I go and I see her and her husband live, and they're talking about their financial challenges that they've had in business. And literally, he's just eating crow. Like, he's like, he's like, he's like on this live stream, like, yeah, man, I'm terrible. And I didn't even look at it. I was, garbage at this. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy's been so on. And I love their transparency and honesty. And I was like, man, how freeing would it be if people could just get honest, right? And not feel like they have to be stronger than where they are in the area because of their gender, or because of whatever societal perception, where people feel like they can't even be transparent because they don't want people to think less of them on where they're at. From all the triggers that come up financially, people don't even want to look at the numbers. Like, we literally just are like changing the way we started doing some work with the profit first system. We're doing it differently before, but looking at that way of, it's like, hey, this works way better with our brain, with like kind of how we think. We don't feel like we need to be, CPAs or anything like that.
Because we're not.
Because we're not at all. And so, man, for all those reasons, I wanted to bring this amazing couple on to talk about their marriage, to talk about their journey through entrepreneurship, to really help. You guys have been married for 32 years, or excuse me, 23 years. You've known each other for 32 years. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Awesome. So been married for 23 years. Me and my wife are coming around our 10th lap. So this is year 10 for us. So we're excited about that. And you have two beautiful daughters that are older. Okay. So you're almost empty nesters. and you
Don't jinx it.
yeah, right. And so, man, again, Britt, I'll let you say anything that you want to say for intro, but I'm ready to really get into their story and some of the businesses that they've been able to build together and the ups and downs of that. So what do you got, Britt? Anything?
I don't have a lot. I'm just really excited. Anytime we get to connect with another couple that in any remote way understands the pain of doing life and business together, I appreciate it. So I'm just excited to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to have you guys start with your story. Let me say hey to a couple of guests. Thank you for joining us, Grace. I see you, Dwayne. Alicia, thank you. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. We're so glad that you're joining us here live. If you're not live, but you're watching this replay, just hashtag replay. We get notified, and it's almost as if you were live. And so you can still engage even after this stream. So without further ado, I don't know who wants to lead, who's the talker of the group, but let us into kind of April. So let us into your journey and kind of like what's your entrepreneurship journey been like?
Well, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents owned a family business together. And so that's my background and my money story, where Joachim's family was employees.
Yes, my dad was the dean of physics and biomedical engineering at Dalhousie University. And then my mom worked at the hospital in child life, which essentially she counseled kids to go through their journey of passing on or go through their cancer treatment. So she did that for 25 years. So that was my upbringing, was very different than April's upbringing.
Mm-hmm. And our money stories were completely different as a result as well. So growing up in an entrepreneurial family, I knew about cash flow pretty quickly by what we were having for Sunday dinner. And where Joachim grew up in a really more stable money environment. And interestingly enough, I was a big saver. I live in this place of scarcity on save every single cent that you have, and Joachim came into this in the scarcity mindset of spend every cent that you have. So as soon as we got together, even though we came from those backgrounds, your parents are your first teachers around money, and so we don't talk about it in school, we don't talk about it with our friends, and so our money stories become those of our parents, or we mimic what we see at home. And so interestingly enough, when we first got together, we were living together before we got married, and trying to mesh those money stories at the beginning was really difficult. And as you said, Daryl, like the biggest reason for relationship breakdown is over money stress. And so interestingly enough, in our 32 years, blissful years together, it's only been like maybe a year or 2 years that we both were employees. And this whole journey of 32 years, we've had the combination of one of us being self-employed and the other being an employee, or vice versa, or we were both self-employed in our family business as well. So like we've gone through this journey together in 32 years of one of us having a stable paycheck and the other not. And so it's, the money side of things we really have had to figure out as we've been going along.
Yeah. What do you feel like, how did you figure it out? Like, I mean, is it just really like you just started to click, or like what was the turning point for you? I know in a little bit of our intro, you said you've built multiple businesses together, and one of them almost was like the anchor that took the ship down for your marriage. So what does that look like to come from there to being able to figure it out?
Well, I've been working in the financial industry for over 25 years. And so I've always been interested in the numbers side of things. My mother was the bookkeeper of our family business. And so when we first had our family business together, I was still working in finance, and Joachim was fully in the family business. And because of my licenses, I wasn't able to be a part of the business. And then Joachim came home one night after multiple times about complaining about how there's not enough rights for small business owners and blah, blah, blah. And we have a thing in our house that if you don't train, you don't complain. So I'm like, either do something about this or stop complaining. And unbeknownst to me, his do something about it was he put his name on the ballot, and he ran for provincial, so state election, so state official, or what we call here at MLA, a member of the Legislative Assembly. I thought he was just going to join like the business association, but he went all the way and put his name on the ballot. Yeah. And so as a result, he was successful in his bid, and he became a member of parliament. And then I was working in the family business. And so the biggest thing that unraveled us, Britt, was we had a trusted employee who was doing our books, and we really put all of our trust in this person. And we'd grown the business to 4 bricks and mortar locations, and we had an online business, and we had a retail consultancy business. And we based all of our financial decisions around books that were not accurate. And, I carry a lot of shame around that story because I'd been in finance at that point up to 15 years. And I had made all of the mistakes that I'd been coaching my clients not to do. And so when I stepped into the business, when Joachim had to step out of the business and I started to unravel things, I started to see, oh my goodness, we're in a pickle here. Yeah. And, it was really difficult because Joachim was very heavily engaged. He's very heavily engaged in the community, and that's his MO. And he was unavailable for me to be asking these questions. And we always had this thing that we never could argue when we were we never had these discussions in bed. But really, it was the only time that we ever saw each other. And I remember one time he got out of bed and he stood on the other side of the bed and he's like, get out of bed. And I stood on the other side of the bed. And we just major blowout about money, like just a major blowout about finances. And we actually went and sought professional help. We did see a marriage counselor about being in business together. And she gave us a great piece of advice, which was, have a Tuesday standing meeting like you would have with any other business partner, and keep that meeting. And then that is the meeting in regards to getting everything out in the business. And then when you get home, your life partners. And so we really started to implement that. But when you ask the question about money, a couple things happened. I read the book Profit First, and I was like, oh my God, Mike Michalowicz, is he in our living room and listening to our conversation?
I felt that way too. I know.
Yeah, right? And that first it's piggy bank and you're crying about it. Bro, that's exactly where I am.
Yes.
And so I gave Mike a call and I said, I've got to be a part of this. And so have been working with Mike and Ron at Profit First Professionals ever since. And so we started implementing Profit First in the business, and we started getting ready to get the business ready to sell because we were done. And went into really behavioral finance. And when I went back into my private practice around finance, I wanted to do things different. And so as part of the behavioral finance program that we took, and as well with Profit First, you have to implement in your business first, and you actually have to show Mike and Ron your bank accounts that you're implementing Profit First in your business. And so doing that, plus, we went and saw a money coach, and I'm in finance. So again, but I'm like, we need to seek outside help. Yeah. And, I think you went for happy wife, happy life, honestly.
Absolutely.
To go. And Joachim has ADHD, and he's got different learning challenges than I do. And so we never saw on the same page in regards to money either. And so we went on this system where we have a weekly spendable number for all of our behavioral spending, and we switched to cash. So in 2017, we've been a cash behavioral spending family ever since. And I'll let Joachim tell the story from here, because I was the CFO of the family taking care of all of that, and it was exhausting for me. And plus, I know he felt bad that I was taking care of all this, and I know he wanted to be a part of it. And I think as well, he needed to feel safe from me, and I don't think he felt, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I am the talker, but I'm not safe in having these conversations with me.
It's an interesting segue into, you hit on a couple things that are really important, I think, for other entrepreneurs out there. As we know, most entrepreneurs are passionate about their business, but have no clue about their money, right? Yeah. Right. And so for me, I was passionate about the outdoors. I was studying to be a mountain guide. I didn't want to climb any mountains. I didn't want to take clients up there. I was trying to figure out ways to stay in the outdoor industry. Hey, let's work in the outdoor space, own an outdoor store, grow it, build it, create some new brands. On that entrepreneurial ADD dyslexia kind of pathway, you're focused on the next thing and the next brush, the next sale, the next whatever, right? It's getting customers. It's so fundamentally important to have that passion, but I didn't have the numbers. So when we hired this woman to trust trust us in our numbers. And she would, we would sit down once a week, looking at the profit and loss. Great, looks fine to me. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it looks great,
Yeah.
And going through with my accountants, they're like, well, you got 700,000 in inventory. What are you going to do with that? Don't worry about it. We'll sell it. Not a problem, right? And I guess that is not that's part of indicative of someone who's ADD or dyslexic, right? Are incredible thinkers and outside of the box thinkers and finding solutions but also we've failed so many times in life that failure is not really a scary thing. For most entrepreneurs, they don't have that opportunity to fail because once they fail, they're like, death to the world kind of component. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to fail. It's not going to fail because if it does fail, there's something else and we can figure it out. But at the same time, going to the money journey with April and understanding the numbers was a bit of a light bulb for me, right? In the journey of holy shit, I spent what at the liquor store? It's like, wait, maybe that's not enough based on what's going on, or do I need more coffee or do it? But then I was like, wait a minute, I'm just taking away from the family for my own benefit. Right, and it's not necessarily the right choices that I made for the family, let alone, it was right for me. Selfishly, it was right for me. So when having a credit card, and it's easy to put it on the credit card,
right?
You don't have to worry about it because you don't see it because April would pay the credit card bill, whatever. It doesn't matter. So now when we're on this cash journey, I actually feel horrible when I use a credit card now, right? Because since 2016, I've used cash. I know what we're allowed to spend in the week. I know what I get for groceries. I do all the cooking. You don't want April to cook for you. And so I build all the groceries and I build everything else in order to make sure that we have the week. But if I had to put that on a debit or credit, I don't quite understand what I've done to the family or what that impact of the family was based on the expenditure. So now I buy my groceries or buy other stuff, incidentals, within the confines of our number and our cash spend. So I know comfortably that it's okay to spend this on this, right? And not have that money stress. And then April knows that there's no crazy expense on the credit card because we're in this confine of this square box of cash, right? I mean, nowadays you can do Coho, you can do other things, but for me, and I'll be very honest with you, being ADD, you need that tangible thing in your hand. And also for dyslexic people too, things, for me, it's a sequencing disorder. So it's a number disorder. So again, cash is very visible. I can see it. I don't have a problem with this. And so when you combine that with entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs are ADD or dyslexic or any of those kind of stills, they don't know their numbers. April's solution helped us, A, in our marriage, 2, in our business, and 3, in our everyday lives, right, with our kids. Now our kids are on that money path of cash. So it's very interesting. It's been a very interesting journey.
Yeah, there's
too.
It's what?
I'm happy to eat crow on it too.
Well, it sounds like you guys, so really what I'm taking away is like you found a solution that works for you, right? Like, and we say this all the time, like if you can't say that a system doesn't work until you work the system. And it doesn't really, it matters, but it's like, it can be system A, B, or C. It has to be the one that fits you guys, right? Even down to the point of like, okay, Joachim, you buy the groceries and you do the cooking. And it's like, April just stays out of the way of that. And that's great. But you've found a system, because we just had a conversation a couple weeks ago. Like, not everything is going to fit in a very stereotypical box. And so, how April, you said your mom did the books for your family's business. My mom did the books for my dad's construction business growing up. Now, she didn't have a degree in accounting and all of those things. It's just sort of like, I think what kind of naturally happens. But if you're not the best one to do it, don't be the one to do it. Like, just get all the cards out on the table and see, like, here are my very honest struggles with this. Here's where I really come alive. And now let's build our family and our business in that way. And I think it just sounded like you had to start with honesty and looking at, like, what are the numbers really showing me? is
Mhm.
really hard when you start looking at those numbers to say like, ooh, that was the total for the month on, you know, DoorDash or whatever is like a, you know, a painful thing to look at. And so taking that honest step first and then really saying like, okay, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'll lead our family with is important.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, it took us years to get to this place, and I think you hit it on the head. Is we never really had these really honest conversations in our marriage, and you know, and I was doing a disservice to all of us by, as Joachim said, just paying off the credit card, and
Mm,
not making it a safe place for Joachim to talk to me about his struggles around money, and so that we could have these honest conversations. So we both played a big role in it taking us so long. And I think for the couples that I work with as well, when they come to see me, you know, they've been together for a long time and they really want this to work and they want their business to work and they want their marriage to work, but they've never been given the conversation starters to even, you know, sometimes when I'm asking the questions, it's the first time they've answered these questions or heard their spouse even talk about how they feel about
mm,
finances as well. And so I think that exactly, you know, once we found out, okay, you can run the cash and all the everyday spending, and I'll still do the investing in the big stuff.
mm.
It's been harmonious since then. Not every day, but a lot of more days because we've, like you said, we've hit our groove of who has the best skill set or really gets fired up on this or that. And it was the exact same in the business. And we put behavioral spending in our business with the Profit First system as well.
Yeah. What are some of those questions that what are like, I'm really curious to hear what you ask people to start reflecting on when you first sit down and start looking at things with them?
The very first question I ask a couple, and the coach that coached us, the very first question that they asked us is too was, what does financial freedom mean to you? And, you know, it was the first time that Joachim and I talked about what does financial freedom mean to each of us. And it was really interesting because in some places we weren't on the same page. And, you know, my background is I am classically trained as a financial advisor. And we just had this magical number that everybody needs $1 million in the bank to retire. Well, you know, if he wants to travel all the time in retirement, I want to be in the garden with the grandchildren. We're so on different pages. And couples
Yeah.
spend more time planning vacations than they plan their retirement and years together as a couple. And like this
Mm,
is really important. And it's the same with, I find, with business owners who are couples as well, is they're not spending time on asking the questions. The first question I ask for a business owner couple. So that's the first question I ask for personal side of what's your, you know, what does financial freedom mean to you?
yeah.
But I want to know with a business couple is, are they building an asset or are they building a lifestyle business? Because if they're building an asset-based business, it's going to be much different than if they're building a lifestyle business. And so we have to be planning out that next year as well. When we decided that we wanted to sell our business, we started with the balance sheet and it took us 4 years to get there. So we had to be on
Mm,
this journey together. And I don't think we were totally on the same page about selling the business either. But you know, I was out, he was still in, but he didn't know the numbers and what have you. I think the other thing that Joachim said that's really important, that was an anchor for him, and it certainly was an anchor for me, was our children. And
mm,
so, you know, every time we spent money, we were taking away time with our children. And
mm,
so for us, having children is about spending time. And we decided when they were, I think it was 10, that we stopped spending on things and we started spending on experiences. And so
mm,
I really think that, like Joachim said, anchoring those goals, sometimes you can't anchor them for yourself. So anchoring your goals for your children and, you know, your why, and why are we doing this business if it's taking us away from them, or why are we spending in this way if it's just making us stress and arguing and our children are seeing this. So
yeah.
those are the two questions though that I ask both couples that work in business and as well on the personal side.
So much there. Daryl, do you have questions, thoughts? There's so many things I want to jump
Man,
into.
I got a lot of them. It's she covered one of them. I was trying to see what was the time frame from like breakdown to breakthrough, right? So it sounds like 4 years from
Mm-hmm.
like the crisis to like now we're more of a stable on the same page place. And I just want to like emphasize that for people because what do they say? Overnight success. Sometimes my overnight success took 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just because you read the book or just because you're like, okay, we're gonna get it right this year, like doesn't mean that it's gonna happen this year. It's just like the consistency to be diligent for 4 years. My guess is that there probably was a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. Like I've heard you guys say, like, oh, we weren't always on the same page, and like 4 years. Like, were there times where you wanted to quit? Were there times where you're like, I don't agree with where we're headed? Like what were some of those maybe like like those main arguments? Like, let us in on that a little bit because some I think people think that it's abnormal to argue. I think people think that you have to agree about everything. And I think just hearing like, no, we disagree with this, but we ran this play for 6 months and then, you know, he realized he was wrong. So what was it like for you? I wanted to kind of
Well, you just hit on something, Daryl, that I just want to go back to. In my growing up, my parents did not argue. They did not argue. And that does not mean that they get along and that they had a perfect marriage. And so I think that seeing healthy arguments in the household would have actually helped me.
Yeah.
And because when we got together, I actually didn't know how to have those kinds of conversations. And it was the same in your household too. You didn't see arguing. And then so when we did fight, I thought that's it, we're done, we're over because we're actually arguing. And so, there were times, I'll speak for myself, there were times along the road where I was for sure pulling out the life insurance policy and thinking about how much I would get if he wasn't in the picture. But like at the core of it, I love him and he is my person. And so I wasn't going to let a thing like money be the breaking point for us. Yeah. If there were things that we weren't on the page with outside of that, I think we wouldn't be here. But I think at the basis of it for me is he's my person. And so I feel that along this journey, I did not show him that it is safe as a woman. I feel like, and I think this happens a lot, that men don't feel safe to have these conversations with women because men are taught to be strong and I got this and I'm supposed to be the breadwinner. And, like Joachim just said, I'm just one big sale away from this all going away. So why would I worry her? But what really happened is when I discovered this, to me, it felt like betrayal, honestly. And so, but when we were able to have these conversations, I wish he had known that it would have been safe for me to talk with me. And I was beside him in this journey no matter what. I wasn't quitting on him. I wasn't going to ever quit on us. And if we had had those conversations, I think earlier, we would have been in a different place. But Joachim's just so wise in all these areas. And I think that, going through this, we definitely have a much stronger relationship. But I feel like if I had let him know that if it had been safe for him to have these conversations with me, I think it would have been different. I think we would still have that business.
Yeah. What do you think, Joachim? What does that bring up for you when she shares that?
It's interesting because I would agree. But I think because our love is so strong for each other, we're willing to work through a lot of the stuff. You see so many couples out there, entrepreneurs or businesses, it's easier to get a divorce than work through their shit, right? Mm-hmm. And, money is usually a cause of that shit. But, I look at April and, she'll come off a call and just be like it's really interesting because she won't share anything with me, but I can tell on her face that it was a tough call. And then 2 weeks later, she'll be like, oh my God, remember when I came out and looked like that? they're doing so well now. They're here, like they've repaired. They're working on a journey back to where we were to become what we are now. And I see that over and over again with her, and it's just so special to see that our journey is helping other people. And that's fundamentally important. That I don't think, a lot of people are scared to talk about stuff, especially men. Men are very like, there's days that right now I'm building a new business, so it takes a lot of time, right? And I can't contribute to the family that I want to contribute, and that's hard, right? And that's also the journey of, that means I have to do X, Y, and Z to support her, to support April, in order to be her successful, to make sure this family runs smoothly, right? So we're all making sacrifices on a continuous basis, like you guys do in your relationship on a continuous basis. You make sacrifices to support each other, to help each other, and one goes up and one goes down, and then the vice versa, right? And that's a team.
Yeah.
Right? And it's easier to get out of that team now by getting a divorce instead of working through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. We use this phrase a lot, like, okay, if we are just on the same side of the table, right? Because especially when it comes to money, like you guys know, like if there's a large bank balance sitting in there today, you're having a very different Friday night than a negative bank balance. Like your family, like you said, Sunday dinner, depending on the groceries that come home, it's very different. And so it's easy to fall into that, like, well, you didn't, what, what is this charge, right? Like, what is this? And not that I've ever been there.
Me either.
Sure. But when we get on the same side, and it's like, okay, our marriage is first. And if we can keep that first and work together, regardless of all of the emotions that are wrapped and tied around money, if that's first and figuring all of this out is secondary to that, I think everything becomes possible when you stay doing it together, like you're saying. But there's one thing that you said, April, that I would love either of you to speak to, because we've been here too, is like, well, we're one big sale away, right? Especially in entrepreneurship, like a big contract, right? It can be any type of business, but it's like, I'm one big sale away from this problem going away. And then you get the sale, and if there's some relief, right? The tea kettle, like you get to let off some steam a little bit, but maybe 3, 4, 6, 7 months later, I just need one big sale and it's going to be okay. Right? Yeah. So we really didn't actually solve whatever keeps creating that. And so I'd love for either of you to speak to that cycle, because I see it a lot in our world.
Well, this is what I do. It's because that's when people come to see me. And it comes to our money behaviors. And so we're just taught, especially as entrepreneurs, that this axiom, which is previous generations believed to be true, so we believe them to be true. And the biggest one in business is sales minus expenses equals profit. And so we're always concentrating on top line sales. If I just get another sale at no matter at what cost, everything will go away. And in our family business, we would do this with like tenders or RFPs. And so we would think, okay, if we just win this big contract, we'll be fine. But the problem that we didn't address was our behaviors or our expenses. So as we got that big sale, well, we would discount our margins to get that sale, and our expenses will go up. And then all of a sudden we would be at the same level profit-wise or less profitable, because we had offered the moon and the stars to get that contract, thinking about the big top line number and not the expenses and the profit to go along with it. And it's the same that I see with couples on the personal side, that yes, they've amalgamated their debt and they've taken out a home line to get rid of the lines of credit and the credit cards, but they haven't addressed the behavior. So lo and behold, and 3 years later, they're back in that same position. And so to answer your question, Britt, it's all around our behaviors, and that we're taught through accounting and GAAP and generally accepted principles that sales comes first and then expenses, and then last is profit. And we need to flip that equation of, yes, we need sales because sales are the cash and lifeblood of our business. But everything that we do, and this is a mistake that we did as well, is that we were so concerned about everybody else. And at one point we employed 31 people. And I remember walking home and we felt very much responsible for 31 families. And so I remember Wednesday nights not being able to sleep thinking, how am I going to make payroll? And we always did, but sometimes we had to dip into our own savings to make payroll. Right. And it's like, okay, this isn't serving anybody. It's not serving us. It's not serving our community. We need to be profitable to serve because you can't serve others from an empty bank account. And so I think there's a couple of things there. Number one is we're taught sales is going to take away all your problems, and it doesn't, because your expenses go up and your profitability goes down. And the second, that we're taught that being profitable means we're greedy. And I believe being profitable means you can serve. And we are here to be of service. And that's very much our values together. It's family first, then community. We were both brought up by families that serve. We make that a part of us and for our children. And you can't serve when you're always worried about money. And you can't serve when your bank accounts are empty. And so being profitable for me equals being in service of others.
So good. This is so good. T, what you got?
Yeah, no, so good, man. Tons of stuff I can drill into there. I want to go back to Dr. Norfleet's question here around asset versus lifestyle business. Can you break that down a little bit more for people who don't really understand how to distinguish between the two and what they're looking to build?
Well, take it from two people that have bought and sold several businesses in our lifetime, that what you think your business is valued is not necessarily what someone else is going to buy it for. Right. So we first have to talk about that. But yes, so you're either building a business that you have assets in the business that you are going to be selling in the future. So for us, we built an asset-based business. We had property in the business. We had equipment in the business. We had we had an extensive customer list, all for goodwill purposes. So we bought the shares of an asset business. So as you know, you can buy either an asset business or you can buy the shares of the business. We naively bought the shares of the business. That's one of the mistakes we made. But anyway, and then we grew those assets. And so now I have a service-based business, and it's a lifestyle business. And so I know that when I'm ready to hang up my shingle, there's not assets there. So I make sure when I bake profit into my offerings that I'm getting enough that I can now fund into my retirement. And last year, our business bought our dream property on the Bay of Fundy. And
congratulations.
Thank you. We are going to retire there. That's our retirement dream. But in the meantime, we're renting it out, and we know that we can make enough of that in 2 months to cover all of our expenses until we're ready to move there. But our business, bought that asset, as in it paid me enough. There's enough profit in everything that I'm doing to purchase that asset, because I have a lifestyle business. And so when I'm ready to hang up my shingle, there aren't assets there for me to sell. And a lot of people think, okay, well, I do have IP, but again, who's going to buy that IP? And that IP is worth a lot less than what I think it is. And I think we, business owners, we might have a titch of ego, maybe. And what you think is you're building, that may not be something you can sell in the future.
Yeah, well,
it's interesting too, because when April's saying is building an asset business, so I'm trying to build an asset business now, and and it takes it's hard, it's a slog, it's difficult, it's brutal, right? But if it does go, oh my God, when it goes, it's going to be a different conversation piece, right? So, we're on two different journeys, let alone, but we're supporting each other and supporting our family at the same during down these two pathways.
So you guys have a business together, and you each have your own individual. Is that right? Or we
have a bookkeeping business together.
Okay.
we've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Even though I have a service-based business, I am trying to really build assets in the business. As Joachim says, building asset-based business takes a higher lift than building a lifestyle business. And so we are looking at alternate ways of creating assets inside of my business. But yes, Joachim has his own venture and I have my own venture, and then we do life together.
Yeah, I get it.
It's interesting. I actually have a personal question on that. But so I'll ask it, and if it's complicated, we can talk offline. But then I also want to like ask a question I know is going to be super valuable for the audience. But like, because I'm thinking like we've got tons. Like I would call ourselves definitely a lifestyle business, right? But like now that I'm like hearing you talk, and I'm like, okay, like I always just was like traditional, like you're selling shares in a business. Like I understand that. But like we got tons of assets. Like we run events. We've got thousands and thousands of dollars of equipment in our shed that we do for our transformational events. And it's just like, man, it would be interesting to start to see it that way, because I mean I don't plan on like selling our business because it's built so much around our personal brand. But if we just operated as if we were, right, like I kind of like that mindset. So it's just like what do you need a real estate portfolio and all that? Because to me that's a separate venture. Like it's not a part of what the business we're doing. But like, do you need that in order for it to really truly be an asset-based business, or can you have things like equipment and like I don't know, vehicle or something like that it's not like you've got loads of property or shares or anything?
Hate to break it to you, but you can buy equipment off of Craigslist and I'm sorry, I haven't seen your balance sheet, but like sitting in your garage, I'm not buying it, right? So when I always talk to, just tell them like, when I talk to a business owner that says exactly that to me, I'm like, what would you buy? Right. And the biggest thing is, so, again, these axioms that we have of, well, I'm not going to pay myself. I'm going to like plow it back into the business and then I'm going to sell it. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to buy a business where someone hasn't been paying themselves for 5 years. So, that's not a business you can sell if you've not paid yourself the whole entire time. When you're going to look at buying a business and you look at the balance sheet and you see a big honking shareholder loan there that hasn't been able to be paid back and there's no dividends being paid to the owner, you're not buying that. And so again, Daryl, it really comes back to what would you buy? And we could have an off-camera conversation about how you build those assets, but like, you've got to have tangible. Now, I've worked with clients that have built blogs that they've been able to sell. I have worked with clients that have built IP that they've been able to sell.
I get that.
But it's really about, finding the buyer as well. So again, I love what you're saying though, is you want to start having this mindset of my business. How can it either build assets in the business for me, or how can it be profitable enough to pay me to buy assets outside of my business? Now, for us, when we bought the family business, we knew that the asset in the business was the building. And quite honestly, it saved our asses. But we didn't get to use it the way that we wanted it to, but having that asset really saved us down the road. So having a combination of both, and that's our plan. He's building an asset base. I'm the venture capital of that for the family, is how I see my business. And then, like Joachim says, then this is what we do. We support each other. We've supported each other's dreams. Maybe we don't have the big retirement portfolio that if we had stayed as employees yet. But this is how we decided that this is what attracted him to me and is that this is what we do. And it's been a journey. It's been a ride, and I don't think I'd change it.
Yeah. So I would love for you guys to break down like the rebuilding process into pieces, right? Knowing that there's going to be some people who just got to like tough it out and suck it up and do it their own. But knowing that also there's people who like, they're already spending tons of money on other stuff and they can hire the right support to help them, right? So like, I get it. So step one is like, okay, what's your definition of freedom? Let's start with the vision. Okay. Begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey. I love that. And then it's like, okay, what are the like like the disciplines that we need to do? Like, do we need to look at it every day? Do we need to look at it every week? And then like, what's the support that a person would need? Like, is it a bookkeeper and a CPA and or is it one person that can do all the things? Like, kind of like, what does that look like?
Can I just add one thing to that?
Of course.
I think one thing that entrepreneurs are scared to do, because you're supposed to be superheroes, right? Because you're an entrepreneur, you get to do what you want to do. Everybody looks at entrepreneurs like, wow, I can't believe you made it. The best advice I got, which was way after all this stuff went down, was you need to identify your weaknesses as an individual within your business, and then build the team with the identification of what your weaknesses are.
Yep.
Right? So if it's marketing or finance, whatever, if you're going to do that and build that team. So this new venture that I'm on, we built a team around each other's weaknesses so that this business can succeed. Right?
Yep.
And if you don't do that, you're gonna get the bankruptcy. You're gonna get those spirit calls with the bankers. And so, but the hardest step is knowing what your weakness is before you step into being an entrepreneur.
Such a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, because so many people just like, they're either not willing to look at it, like legit. Like when I was way into John Maxwell's world, they had us do this 360-degree assessment where we basically assessed our closest friends, our colleagues, coworkers, and if you had clients or whatever, and it's 360, so all around your life, and you had to ask them about your top 3 strengths, your top 3 weaknesses, and it was like so many people, even though they purchased the right to be able to do it, just didn't do it because they didn't want to hear what people said were their weaknesses. It was like, I don't want to like face that because I'm like, it affects my sense of self-worth. But I always tell people, like, grow your strengths and then guard your weaknesses is what I say. And if I'm talking to only entrepreneurs, grow your strengths and staff your weaknesses. So I think it's what you're saying is spot on. So, okay, cool. I get it. Know my weaknesses, like be willing and be humble about where I'm at, know the vision of where I want to go and what's financial freedom for me. And then what other pieces do we need from a team perspective? And then what are those behavioral disciplines?
So with entrepreneurs, the first thing that I teach is, again, who is on your wealth care team? So I see the parallels between healthcare and wealth care, and you have to have a team that's going to advocate for you, just like you have your medical team that advocates for your health. And all of those people and all of those disciplines have to be on the same page, serving your purpose, the purpose of the business, and be complementary of each other and be willing to work with each other. So really, again, like Joachim's saying, just putting those egos to the door. Because I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, okay, I need a bookkeeper, check. And then that's it. They don't communicate with the bookkeeper. They're like, I need a CPA, check that box. And then they don't talk to their CPA until year ends. And they're wondering, I have a cash flow problem. I don't talk to my CPA or anybody on my wealth care team. And quite frankly, if you're only looking at your numbers once a year and that's at year end, to borrow a phrase from my grandfather, the horse has already left the barn at that point, my friend. And so I think, first of all, you build a really strong wealth care team, but know what your weakness is, who you need to have on that team, and that you have weekly meetings, monthly meetings, at least with your team. And I believe strongly, though, that you can't just advocate that to anybody else. You have to have your finger on the pulse of your finances, like Joachim said. And so I really feel you need to step into that role of chief financial wellness officer of your business. And you need to have that basic language, because finance, your bookkeeper and your accountant, they are talking a different language. They are. And like Joachim said, as the business owner, you're passionate about your product and service. If you'd been passionate about bookkeeping and accounting, you would have been a bookkeeper or accountant. And so we have this, like Joachim said, we have this superhuman thought that we should be able to know our bookkeeping and our finance, and if we don't, we have great shame around it. Well, no, but you do need to know the basics of your finance. So that's why I offer Wealth Care 101, which is a foundational finance course for entrepreneurs, to give them the language so they can have these conversations, so they can ask curious questions. Your bookkeeper bookkeeper and your accountant, they're passionate about bookkeeping and accountant. If you show that you're also interested in what they're doing, they'll be excited about working with you and providing you with these numbers. And if they're not on your team. Like, we think we can't fire our bookkeeper or accountant or our banker. You most certainly can. If they're not there to serve you, then find someone else. I know it's difficult, but like, that's what happened to us. And when we found the right people on our team, that's when things really started to change for us. So first is, like Joachim's saying, take inventory of the skills that you have. Take inventory of the skills that you currently have on your team. You may not have people in the right seats on the bus, like they talk about good to great, but take inventory of what you have. And then hire out for those skill sets that you don't. But everybody on your wealth care team has got to be supporting your vision and have to be rowing in the same direction. And then from there, Daryl, we do a really deep dive into what are you offering in your products and services, and what are your gross margins? Because if you're just putting everything into one chart of account on your revenue, and you don't know what are margin builders and what are margin detractors, and that would be for us. Once we did that deep dive, and we saw, for example, that socks were a big margin builder for us and kayaks were a margin toilet for us, and then expanded our sock section and started not, carrying as many kayaks. But we didn't know that until we did the deep dive into our margins. And you've got to stick to your margins, because if you're not sticking to your margins, everything else is going to fall apart. You won't be able to pay your people. You won't be able to pay your rent. It all starts with the margins. And a lot of business owners, like Joachim said, are passionate about their product and service, but they don't do the homework before they get in to see, what does my pricing need to be? What are my costs of goods to deliver this product? And is this product maybe just not viable? I do a lot of work with new Canadians that want to become entrepreneurs. And when I showed them the margins in Canada on this particular industry, he was like, I'm better off putting my money in investments than doing all this work to become entrepreneurs. And he was very grateful for that, because he saw that this wasn't a viable option for him for what he wanted. And I think so many times business owners, I'm going to become a baker because I'm really great at baking bread, but I don't know what my margins are. And then I lose my home, my investment portfolio, my marriage, my stress, and everything else. I could go through all the rest of the steps, but
Just
I know
I get it. No, I get it. And I get it.
And you said that's in your course. It's called Wealth 101. Is that what you called it?
Wealth Care 101. Yes.
Wealth Care 101. I love it.
So beautiful, man. Like, y'all, we are gonna land the plane here. We're coming at the top of the hour. And man, just want to shout out some of the audience I've seen. I know some probably may not be here, but if you're, pop back in to finish where you left off. Just want to say hey to Parker J, also another Canadian. So Parker J from Saskatoon, baby.
That's right. Now in California.
There you go. Stacy Garrison, Paul, I see you. Paul's on here. Scott, Erica, thank you for joining us. All the Instagram audience, I can see your comments and everything. It won't let us show it here on StreamYard for whatever weird reason, but they'll probably figure that out in the future. But we see you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the amens and the truths and the comments and the concurs. Appreciate all of that. Glad this is resonating, and would love to know specifically, what tidbit, what nugget from this, time that you've been watching has been helpful to you. What language is helpful? What stories were helpful to hear? We always want to know what's resonating with our audience. Landing the plane. I don't know why, but this is kind of where my heart feels directed. I don't know where you sit on this side of the fence, but there's a large group of people who are extremely worried about our economy in the U.S. And really in the world, if we really get political. I'm curious on your take on the future of entrepreneurship in America. And is it bright? Is it dark and gloomy? What do you see as kind of that future, and kind of what would be your encouragement to people as they look to build businesses in this era?
Joachim just stepped away because my battery's about to die. But Daryl, not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of messaging out there that is not serving to people to jump into entrepreneurship. And what I've seen.
It's all good.
Okay, I was like, did we just, Pablo, it's you? I've seen a lot of people get into entrepreneurship, drink the Kool-Aid of entrepreneurship, and they've lost a lot of money. And so I believe, for me, it's been in my blood, it's been in Joachim's blood. We've been able to make it work, but we have struggled. It's not been easy. I don't think we're building businesses for our children, because I don't think there's going to be stable employment for our children. So we're building businesses for our children. And, I think the biggest thing in entrepreneurship is there's so many outside factors that we cannot control. We cannot control global pandemics. We cannot control hyperinflation. We cannot control higher interest rates. The only thing that we can control as entrepreneurs is, first of all, our attitudes, getting up every morning to serve others. If you are not in a place of service to others, do not become an entrepreneur. And because it's hard and you have to have purpose, and you have to have your why. And above and beyond your why, you have to have your financial why. And you need to know financially why you are doing this, because it will take time. As Joachim's saying, he's building an asset-based business. He's been at this with heart and passion and soul for 4 years. And, and I've been building my business for 7 years. As you said, Daryl, an overnight success happens in 20 years. And so if you are thinking this is going to be somebody has sold you that this is going to be a magic bullet, and it's going to happen overnight, and you're going to have a 6-figure launch, it may cost you multiple 6 figures to have that launch. And then you're not in a profitable position. And so really, again, understanding your why you want to do this, to be in a place of service to others, to make sure that what you are doing is viable, and that you have the resiliency skills to take this the whole way.
Oh, you're muted.
So good. That's what I say. Oh man, so good. Man. Joachim, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think, to April's point, the business that I've been building has taken 4 years, 4.5 years, and the support that she's been able to give me to get this asset business has been phenomenal, right? Yes, it's been challenging. Yes, sometimes, this was a bumpy week for us in that entrepreneurial space, and but I'm grateful for that this business it's going to go. It's very close to going, but it's multi-million-dollar business to get going. Doesn't happen overnight. And it's with that support and understanding the numbers and understanding everything and being through it. And at my age, over 50, as a young person, I don't think I would have had the skills to do this business that I'm doing right now, right? Because it's so complex, so difficult. Like someone who took an entrepreneur program at university trying to be an entrepreneur at this level is going to get hurt, right? And
don't you get me started about universities teaching entrepreneurship.
People that have never been entrepreneurs, never built one business in their life.
On that, because it's a mindset. It's not a skill you can learn.
So good, good. Well, thank you so much, man. We could probably chat for another 4 hours. There's so much more that you all have to offer. But we definitely want people to go over to your website, check you out, head over to your socials. All those links are there on the screen. We'll drop them in the comments too. And really follow these folks. They talked about this concept of having your wealth care team. If you don't have that, they're a great place to start, right? Reach out to them. They're safe people. They've obviously vulnerably shared with you their struggle, so I'm sure there's not anything that would surprise them. And so get the support and the help you need. Think about this. I don't know if I've ever met any entrepreneur who isn't passionate about making more money, but oftentimes they don't want to look at their money. And imagine me being passionate about my wife, but never spending time with her. It's like the relationship isn't there to have a quality, relationship. And so what I would say is, like, finances is a relationship. And if you want to make impact, like that all of us want to do, and you want to make a lot of money, like, it starts with having a really solid relationship. And that is building your wealth care team, looking at the numbers, even though it might not be your area of strength, and leaning on people like April, and the people, that they can connect you to be able to support you on your journey. So that's kind of my spill. Man, thank you so much for you guys coming on. We'd probably love to have you back again in the future. And that's it. That's all I got for now. Bri, you got anything?
Thank you so much for your wealth of wisdom, and we appreciate it. Anytime we get to hear, 20 years distilled in 60 minutes, we all get to shorten our learning curve. So we appreciate the bumps that you've helped us drive around through today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Again, one of the things that we promised ourselves, that when we got ourselves out of this, that it was not for naught, and that it was to help others. And so if we can be of service to your community, we would love to do that. So thank you for the opportunity, and we'd love to come back sometime as well.
Remember, family first, community second, business third.
So can't get any better than that, y'all. Thank you. This is our Entrepreneur Family podcast, y'all. Interviewing different entrepreneur families from multitude of perspectives and backgrounds, helping to empower you on your journey. Anything we can do to support you, reach out. Let us know what your biggest takeaways is from this stream, and we'll see you next Friday. Peace.